Good morning, students. Welcome back to our physics classes. Yesterday, we have started with uniform circular motion. We have seen what is circular motion and some terms related to circular motion like uniform circular motion, non-uniform circular motion, centripetal force, angular displacement, velocity, angular velocity, like. And we have stopped with centripetal force. And we came to know that centripetal force is necessary for keeping an object in its circular path. So, when a system or a particle or an object under circular motion loses its centripetal force, it will not remain in that circular path, it will move off tangential to that point at that moment. So, in some examples from the daily life, also we have mentioned there, and today we are starting with the same. That means examples of centripetal force from the daily life situations. And I think all of you experienced while you are traveling in a bicycle or a scooty or a car or any vehicle, and when you are making a turn or you are taking a turn, you are advised to slow down. If you are coming with a high speed and if you are taking the turn, it is advised you how to slow down. And if in rainy days, so especially in rainy days, if you are moving or if you are traveling a curved road, again you are asked to slow down your pace while you are taking the turn. Did you ever think what is the reason for advising like that? You have to slow down while you are taking the curve. While taking the curve, you are moving in a circular path. So, to make the circular path properly, you need centripetal force. Who is providing centripetal force there? Centripetal force is provided by the frictional force existing between the tires and the road. If that frictional force is not necessarily enough to provide you the centripetal force, required centripetal force, what will happen? You cannot remain in the circular path and you will skid off. So, what is the role of friction? Or what determines the centripetal force required? This is to be discussed. So, we will start with three examples: a bicycle turning a curve, then a car turning a curve, then a banked road. Banked road, banking of road or banking of curve. I think you are familiar with that term, banking of curve, which means in the turns, the outer side of the road is somewhat higher than the inner side. It is made like that only. That technique is known as banking of road. So while the road is banked one, it is a banked road, then you can take somewhat more velocity than in a flat road. If you are turning a flat road or the same turn you are making in a banked road, then your velocity is determined by that technique, which means through a banked road you can have a higher velocity than in a flat curve. The reason we will discuss it now. Okay, so let us see one by one what is the effect of centripetal force in our some daily life situations. Okay, let us see the example of a car on a level circular road. A car on a level circular road. So I told you, when a car is traveling through a flat circular road, what is the maximum velocity it can take? what is the maximum velocity it can take. So for that, consider a car of mass m moving with a constant speed v on a perfectly level circular road of radius r. It's a level road. Okay, it's not a banked road, it is a level road. While taking the turn, the outer tires of the car tend to leave the road. While it is taking the road, the outer tire of the car tend to leave the road, and F1 and F2 be the forces of friction at the inner and outer tires respectively. It is shown in the diagram. So F1 and F2 are the frictional force on tires, inner tire and outer tire respectively, and they are acting towards the center. If R1 and R2 be the forces of reaction of the ground at the inner and outer tires. R1 and R2 are the reaction forces acting on the tires. So, according to the friction equation for friction, F1 is equal to mu s into R1, F2 is equal to mu s into R2. Then the total reaction force acting in the upward direction is R1 plus R2. That should be equal to the weight of this car and the passenger which is acting in the downward direction. So R1 plus R2 should be equal to mg. Okay. So the total frictional force is F1 plus F2, which is equal to mu s into R1 plus mu s into R2. Mu s is common there. So mu s into R1 plus R2 plus R1 plus R2 is already mg. So mu s into R1 plus R2 you can replace by mu s into mg. So this is the total frictional force acting. That is the total frictional force acting. So for the car to be on the road, it requires centripetal force. No other forces are acting except the total frictional force, which is providing the necessary centripetal force there. So the necessary centripetal force should be equal or less than the total frictional force, or the total frictional should be equal or greater than the necessary centripetal force. So mu s into mg is the total frictional force, which should be equal or greater than mv square by r, where mv square by r is the centripetal force for a car of mass m for making a turn of radius r with a velocity v. Therefore, v square by rg less than or equal to mu s, or v square less than or equal to mu s into rg, or for maximum velocity it should be equal to mu s into rg. So v max is equal to root of mu s into rg. V max is equal to root of mu s into rg. Okay, so for taking curve on a level road, maximum velocity is determined by three factors. One is g, it's a constant. Another is r, that is also a constant for a particular road. And then what is remaining there, mu s. What is mu s? Coefficient of friction. So the friction determines the maximum velocity. The friction determines the maximum velocity. Okay, so the maximum velocity with which a car can travel through a level road is given by V max is equal to root of mu s into Rg. See here, the same car is placed on a, or it is now on a banked road. See, in the banked road, outer edge is somewhat made higher than the inner side for an angle theta. Then what happens is, its mg is acting vertically downwards and r is acting normal to this inclined plane. Now it can be considered as any case of inclined plane. So r cos theta component is acting opposite to mg, and r sin theta component is acting along the inclined plane towards the center. So here what advantage we are getting is, in the initial case we have got the component, I mean, the force which is providing the necessary centripetal force is only the frictional force. So here an extra component of force is also added there so as to provide the necessary centripetal force, that is the r sine theta component. That is the r sine theta component. So the total necessary centripetal force is provided by both frictional force and r sine theta component. So when the frictional force is only providing the centripetal force, then the velocity, maximum velocity should be V max is equal to root of mu s into Rg, that we have already seen. But here an extra component of force is also present there so as to provide the necessary centripetal force. So passenger can take an extra velocity while traveling through a banked road, because more centripetal force is given by, or more centripetal force is provided by frictional force plus extra r sine theta component. Anyhow, r cos theta is equal to mg, r sine theta is equal to r cos theta is equal to mg, and r sine theta is equal to mv square by r. But remember, additionally frictional force is also present there. So tan theta is equal to v square by rg. Tan theta equal to v square by rg. When you are dividing this equation, r sine theta by r cos theta will become tan theta. Then m and m get cancels, v square by rg is the resultant. From this we can conclude that at a proper slope, at a particular slope, we can have a particular velocity. That means the driver should keep the speed, the turn much higher than in a much higher means a little bit higher than in case of a level road. One more thing you have to remember here is, in that equation tan theta is equal to v square by rg, or v is equal to root of rg into tan theta. From this equation we can write v is equal to rg, root of rg into tan theta. And in this equation there is no hint for the mass. So for any vehicle, if it is a heavy vehicle or a light vehicle, they can make use the same velocity to turn with that particular slope. Consider, suppose the car is moving at a speed higher than the desired speed. For that particular theta, we have a desired speed. Suppose the speed of the car is higher than the desired speed. So again it tends to slip outwards from the turn, but then the frictional force acts inwards, that provides the additional centripetal force. That I told you, if you are increasing the velocity a little bit more, then extra component of friction plus r sine theta makes the necessary centripetal force. Okay, similarly, if the car is moving with a slower speed than the desired one, then it slips inwards. Again, now the frictional force acting outwards and reduces the centripetal force. So actually the centripetal force from this equation is tan r sine theta component plus frictional force is there. So it manages with the necessary centripetal force if the velocity is less than or greater than the desired value through that particular slope. Okay. Okay, another example is for a bicycle rider. So a bicycle rider leans inwards while taking a turn on the road. That you also felt the same. So a bicycle rider leans inwards while taking a turn on the road. So the figure shows a rider taking a turn towards his left hand side. M be the mass of the rider and the bicycle, and he is moving with a velocity v through a radius r. The centripetal force, necessary centripetal force is mv square by r to take the turn, and it is provided by the friction between the tires and the road. Therefore, when the bicycle is turned, the frictional force F is equal to mv square by r, and it is towards the center of the turn at the point A. See, in the diagram, you can see that at the point A, the frictional force F is acting towards the center of the turn, and mg is acting downwards, and the reaction force is acting at the point of contact A. Okay, then let us imagine, it's an imaginary force F1 and F2 acting at the center of gravity of the system, the whole system. If F1 and F2 are acting equal and opposite forces, F1 and F2 are acting, so it will not affect the total system as well. But we are considering that two forces are acting, and that will not affect it any way to the system. Now, the force F acting at A can replaced by F1 acting at G, and the anti-clockwise couple formed by F2 and F. Are you getting that? This F you can replace by this F1. Okay, then since this system GA is experiencing two equal and opposite forces F and F2, they will make a couple. Two equal and opposite forces acting are known as a couple, a system of couple. So the total force F you can replace by F1 and the couple produced by F2 and F. And remember, since F is acting in this direction, the couple generated by F2 and F should be acting in anti-clockwise direction. That should act in the anti-clockwise direction. That should act in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay. Now, if the rider remains straight while turning the curve, his weight mg will act in the vertically downward direction, and the normal reaction is acting in the upward direction through the center of gravity g. So they will cancel each other. But the problem is the anti-clockwise couple tries to overturn the cycle in the outwards direction. If it is straight, this anti-clockwise couple will try to move in the outward direction. If, however, the rider leans inwards towards the center of the turn, then his weight mg and the normal reaction of the earth form a clockwise couple which balances the anti-clockwise couple. So when he is leaning inwards, see, R is acting in the upward direction and mg is acting in the downward direction. So it will make a clockwise couple. Already an anti-clockwise couple is there between F and F2. So the couple generated between or by F and F2 is cancelled by mg and R. Are you getting that? So why this rider is leaning inwards? So as to counter the, or so as to balance the anti-clockwise couple produced by F and F2. Anti-clockwise couple produced by F and F2. For that, this rider has to lean inwards, then only he can generate another couple made by R and mg, which is acting in the clockwise direction. So they will cancel. Hence the rider moves on the turn without any risk of overturning. So which is the reason for overturning anti-clockwise couple? That when it will be there when the rider is straight. And how you can overcome that anti-clockwise turn? When he is leaning inwards, it generates a clockwise couple. So this clockwise couple cancels with the anti-clockwise couple, which tries to overturn the bicycle in the outward direction. So what will happen? mg into ga sine theta, that is a couple generated. So couple formed by mg and R is equal to couple formed by F1 and F, F2 and F. F2 and F means F1 and F2, which are both equal to the total, frictional force F. So mg into ga sin theta equal to f into ga cos theta. Mg into ga sin theta equal to f into ga cos theta. So tan theta equal to f by mg. When you are dividing this, you can get f tan theta equal to f by mg. What is f? mv square by r, the centripetal force, and mg divided by mg. So m and m get cancelled, which is equal to v square divided by rg. Is there any confusion there? No need to be confused. See, this is force into perpendicular distance between the two forces. Here, which are the forces? R acting in the upward direction, mg acting in the downward direction. This angle is theta. So what is the perpendicular distance between these two forces? This is g2 into f. According to this triangle, that will be equal to sin theta. Is it? That is ga sin theta. And here the forces are f and f2. Their perpendicular distance will be f2a. f2a will be cos theta, ga cos theta. So that will be mg into ga sin theta equal to f into ga cos theta. Couple you are calculating as a force into perpendicular distance between the line of action of these two forces. Okay, that you have already learned from 10th standard. So mg into ga sin theta is equal to f into ga cos theta, tan theta is equal to f by mg, so v square by rg tan theta. This equation you are already familiar with. So v is equal to root of rg into tan theta. So again, that velocity with which you can move through that curve is given. So since the centripetal force is mv square by r provided by the frictional force, the value of mv square by r should be less than the limiting frictional force mu r, otherwise the bicycle will slip down. So that is why the rider slows down the speed of the bicycle when taking the turn and follows the path of the larger radius. So as the r increases, v decreases. R increases, v decreases. That is why when we are taking a turn of larger radius, the velocity is less. Now we have seen what is centripetal force, and we have seen some examples from the daily life where centripetal force is provided. So the role of centripetal force is so as to maintain the particle in the circular path. If there is no necessary centripetal force, the particle will not remain in the circular path. So again, when you are considering a force, according to Newton's third law, there should be equal and opposite force. So when there is a centripetal force acting towards the center of the circular path, according to Newton's third law, there should be an equal force acting from the center to outward direction. But there is no such a force. But according to the third law, we can argue there should be a apparent force which is acting opposite to centripetal force in equal magnitude. It's not an actual force. That is why we call that as a pseudo force. A pseudo means it's an imaginary force. And that force is known as centrifugal force. That force is known as centrifugal force. So remember, centrifugal force is a pseudo force. Centrifugal force is a pseudo force. So consider an example. Here we have a smooth horizontal table. At the center a nail is there. From the nail a thread is tied, and at the opposite end a particle of mass, an object of mass m is tied. And when you are, it's a rotating table. When you are rotating the table, or when you are moving that object, you are just moving that object in the anti-clockwise direction. You are rotating that table with a velocity v in anti-clockwise direction. So being on the table, that object is also experiencing that velocity, and it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Suppose the distance of the body from the nail is r, and the linear velocity of the table at the body is v. If there is no sufficient friction between the table and the body, then in order to keep the body at rest on the table, it must be tied to the nail by a string. Is it? The situation is very clear. Now the problem arises. Suppose a man standing on earth and looking at the rotating table, and he will see that the body is rotating around the nail and find a force, centripetal force, mv square by r on it. Suppose a man is standing beside the table and he is seeing that this object is rotating with a speed and it experiences a force mv square by r so as to keep it on table. This force is provided by the tension in the string and it's a real force acting on the body. And this force is provided by the string and that is a real force. Okay, so a person standing in the room finds that object is experiencing a centripetal force mv square by r and it is provided by the tension. Okay, suppose another person is standing on the table or sitting on the table, and now the table is rotating, object is rotating, and the person is also rotating with the same speed. So according to that person, there is no position change for that object. Is it? All are in motion. So when you consider the second man sitting on the table, he finds that there is no position change for that object of mass m. So which implies that there is no force acting on that mass. There is no force acting on that mass. Then if there is no force acting on that mass, but actually there is a force acting mv square by r which is inwards to the nail. That is a necessary centripetal force. But the person sitting on the table finds that there is no force acting, but there is an actual force acting. So to satisfy him, he feels that there is another force mv square by r acting outwards so that the net force acting on the body is 0. And that force is known as the centrifugal force, and that is a pseudo force. Okay, so this is a better way of explaining the presence of centrifugal force. That is a better way of explaining centrifugal. I think it is clear why we are assigning a centrifugal force. Okay, so centrifugal force is an imaginary force which is equal in magnitude for the centripetal force but acting in the opposite direction. So centripetal force is always acting towards the center and centrifugal force is acting outside the or outwards from the center. So that is centrifugal force. So centrifugal force is the anti-force for centripetal force. That means it is the reactionary force of centripetal force. Remember, that is not a real force, that is only a pseudo force. Okay. Now we can consider movement in a vertical plane. So vertical plane means suppose an object is tied at the end of a string and it is whirled in the air in the vertical direction. So the particle is deriving a circular path in the vertical direction. So that movement is known as the movement along a vertical circle. Here, a body of mass m tied at one end of a weightless string of length L, string of length L, and is being revolved in a vertical circle in anti-clockwise direction. It is given in the diagram. Okay, so center of the circle is O, center of the circular path is O, and B is the lowest point and A is the highest point and C is the point where the stone or the string will come horizontal, exactly horizontal. Suppose at any instant the body is at the point P of the circle whose angular displacement from the lowest point is theta. So from the lowest point, the displacement, angular displacement is theta. See, this is point B, and from the lowest point at any particular point P, the angular displacement is theta. Let be the velocity is V at the point P, and which is acting in tangential direction. Okay. So let T be the tension in the string at the point P. At that moment, T is the tension acting towards the center. So at this point, mass M, it has weight mg acting in the downward direction. Mg cos theta component is acting opposite to the tension, and mg sin theta component is acting in this particular direction. Okay. So at this position, the net radial force on the body towards the center of the circular path is T minus mg cos theta. And that is the total radial force acting. And that radial force is providing the necessary centripetal force. So we can say that T minus mg cos theta is equal to mv square divided by L. What is that mv square by L? That is the necessary centripetal force, and L is the radius of the circular path here. That is the length of that string. That is why we kept as T minus mg cos theta is equal to mv square divided by L. So T is equal to mg cos theta plus mv square divided by L. T tension is mg cos theta plus mv square divided by L. Okay. Now consider the body moves upwards and reaches the point A. According to the first equation, T is equal to mv square by L plus mg cos theta, the tension T in the string goes on decreasing and becomes minimum at the highest point A. Okay, so at the point A, TA will become minimum, at the tension will become minimum, mVA square by L plus mg into cos theta. Theta now will become 180 degree. So TA will become mVA square divided by L minus mg. VA means velocity at the point A. Okay, so as the particle go upward direction, the velocity goes on decreasing and its angular displacement goes on increasing. Then according to the diagram, the tension goes on decreasing. Suppose the velocity of the body at the highest point A is VA, then our condition is this much only, TA is equal to mVA square by L minus mg. That is, tension at the point A will be mVA square by L minus mg. Okay, so if the velocity of the body be decreased, then the tension in the string will also decrease and become 0 at a minimum value of velocity. For a particular value of velocity, the tension will become 0. So let this minimum velocity is the critical velocity Vc. Let this velocity as Vc, where tension will become 0, where at the point A. So at the point A, if you are decreasing the velocity for a particular minimum velocity, the tension will become 0. So when putting TA is equal to 0, at the point VA is equal to Vc, then the equation will become 0 is equal to mVA square divided by L minus mg, and that VA you can replace by Vc. So mVc square divided by L is equal to mg, or Vc is equal to m and m get cancels, and Vc is equal to root of GL. Okay, so that is the critical velocity. What is the critical velocity? Which is the minimum velocity at the highest point in the vertical plane or vertical motion, vertical circular motion, where the tension will become 0. The minimum velocity for a particle under vertical circular motion at the highest point, the tension becomes 0. That minimum velocity is known as the critical velocity. Suppose when the particle reaches the highest point, the velocity of the body is less than critical velocity, then what will happen? Tension will act in the downward direction and the particle will move down. So at least root of GL velocity that particle should carry when it reaches the highest point. Okay. Now, in going the body from P to the highest point A, from P to highest point A, the kinetic energy would decrease and the potential energy will increase by the same amount because energy is conserved. So the kinetic energy decreases and the potential energy increases. So what will be the change in kinetic energy? The change in kinetic energy will become half mv square minus half mva square. What is the change in kinetic potential energy is mg into L plus L cos theta. See the diagram. As the particle moves from P to A, the distance traveled in the vertical direction will be L cos theta plus L. So the change in potential energy will be mg into H. H will be L plus L cos theta. And the change in kinetic energy will be initial kinetic energy minus final kinetic energy because it is decreasing. So VA square. So V square minus VA square is equal to 2GL into GL cos theta because N get cancels and this 2 go to the right hand side. So that will become 2G into L plus 2GL cos theta. Then V square, what is VA square? VA or VC, that is at the point A, VA should be VC. Then VC is equal to root of GL. So VA square can be replaced by VC square, which is equal to root of GL square, that will become GL. So V square minus GL is equal to 2GL plus 2GL cos theta. So this GL you can take into the right hand side. V square is equal to 3GL plus 2GL cos theta. GL is common, so GL into 3 plus 2 cos theta. So V is equal to root of GL into 3 plus 2 cos theta. Root of V is equal to, V is equal to root of GL into 3 plus 2 cos theta. Okay. Actually, what is this V? This V that we have calculated now is the velocity of the particle when it is at the point P. When it is at the point P. And that V you find in the first equation, T is equal to mv square by L plus mg cos theta. So that V you can replace by this V root of 3 plus 2 cos theta multiplied by GL. So that equation will become T is equal to m by L into V square plus mg cos theta. So m by L, V square you can replace by 3 plus 2 cos theta into GL plus mg cos theta. So L you can cross multiply. So when you are taking this L to the bracket, this L will get cancelled, but this L will go to, L will get cancelled there. So 3 mg plus 2 mg cos theta plus mg cos theta will come there. This mg cos theta will remain like that only. In the bracket, this L get cancels and this m come to along with g. So mg into 3 plus mg into 2 cos theta. So that will become 3 mg plus 2 mg cos theta plus mg cos theta. That will become 3 mg plus 3 mg cos theta. 3 mg you can keep as common. So T is equal to 3 mg into 1 plus cos theta. 3 mg into 1 plus cos theta. Now we got the values for V and T, and you can find the values at 3 different points that we have already set. So at the point B, the lowest point, VB will become 3 plus 2 cos theta GL. Theta will become 0. So that will become 5 GL. That means cos 0 is 1. So this will become 5 into GL root of 5 GL. And tension will become 3 mg into 1 plus cos theta. Again cos theta is equal to 1. So 1 plus 1 will 2. The 6 mg will remaining. Then at the point C, VC is equal to 3 plus 2 cos 90. C is the horizontal direction that we have already seen. So cos 90 is 0. So that will become 3 GL. And here also tension also cos 90 is 0. So that will become 3 mg. When at the highest point A, theta is 180. So 2 cos 180 will become minus 2, 3 minus 2 will become 1, so GL, and cos 180 is minus 1, so 1 plus minus 1 will become 0, the tension will become 0. So all these matters we have already discussed and already seen at the point A. But you can apply these conditions for at B and C also, at the point B and C also. So at the 3 different points, we have defined what is the velocity and what is the tension. Okay, so that all about our chapter uniform circular motion. Okay, so it's a very simple chapter, and I think the concepts you find as very easy, and learn the chapter well. And next class we will start with our new chapter. Okay, and before that we will go to the problems from friction and this chapter. Okay, so next class we will complete with our numericals, and then we can go for the next chapter. So next day also you go to the same chapter, uniform circular motion. One more session you can find there we will discuss the numericals from both the chapters. Okay.